So hopefully it will show on your screen that we're recording. So welcome everyone. It's really brilliant to see you all, and we've got a lot to share with you over the next hour and a quarter. Right, I have a presentation which I'm just going to share. Do this. So hopefully you can see my whole screen. Claire, is that what you can see?
Yes, that's fine. I can see it perfectly.
Right, great.
Alison's just having problems with video and microphone, but she'll be back in a minute.
Okay, so the first thing is we want to thank you because we've had to amend the date. So we were scheduled to meet tomorrow, but given the industrial action that's happening in schools, we hope you understand why we've moved it a day earlier. We're hoping that most of you who wanted to attend can, but we appreciate we've had some correspondence with a few colleagues who can't, so they asked if it was going to be recorded. Now, actually, we do record our professional tutor meetings, but obviously there is intrinsic value of being here, particularly when you are feeding back to us, where you are in breakout rooms. And so, yes, we will always share, but you know, your active engagement and participation is what we're really after in these meetings. And actually, in planning this one, it's maybe slightly less operational and maybe a bit more strategic, because I suppose that's where our heads have been, given that Ofsted came to see us last week. And so I thought it was a good opportunity to maybe share some of the thinking behind what we do and why we do it with you, because you are strategic, you know, you have a strategic role in your school in relation to training teachers. This meeting is for all professional tutors, and so what we have is some placement one PTs who, for whatever reason, are not going to have a trainee in placement 2. Then we have obviously some of you who didn't have a placement 1 but will have a placement 2, and there are a number of you who are going to have placement 1 and placement 2. Annette had a really productive meeting with the new professional tutors last Wednesday. But if you're in that group or you weren't able to attend, if you want any further support, just let me know, and we'll arrange a time to work together. On that Wednesday as well, there was a new mentor in-person meeting, and it was almost standing room only. So we were in one room with the Ofsted inspectors, and literally, you know, just across the way there were 50 mentors. So thank you very much to all those schools that released those mentors for that training. Right, in terms of what we're doing today, we've got some updates, and then the 5 focus areas, as I say, some are a bit more strategic. One is around our action plan and how that relates to partnership. Just reminding ourselves the purpose of these meetings and maybe the form and format of these meetings going forward. Got something on mentoring. I'd like us to think about what you would want from a partnership conference of professional tutors. And I've got a little bit on phase C. But we'll start off with some updates. So, as most of you know, Ofsted visited us last Monday to Thursday, and we do want to share with you just some initial reflections, and also to give you a sense of the process of that inspection. We're not allowed to share with you any outcomes, so if that's why you're here, you're not going to hear that from us. The grades are being moderated, and it's something like 38 working days that they have to do that, and we have to be very careful about what we say and what we don't say. And so I just wanted to just flag that. And I've got some updates around second placements and partnership visits. Now, unlike a school Ofsted, as a couple of head teachers shared with me, we got more notice. So actually, I think it was at the 18th of January. It was a Wednesday, wasn't it, Claire, that you got the call? Yeah,
that's right. 18th of January, 9:30.
Yeah, okay. So, and then the inspection team arrived on the following Monday. But between that Wednesday and the Monday, there was an awful lot to prepare. The reason we're given more notice is obviously, unlike a school, a university provider or an ITE provider, it's the entire partnership that's being inspected. And so there was an awful lot of planning that had to be done. It isn't just the campus provision that's being inspected, although that was a really important and major component. It's the partnership, it's the schools, the professional tutors, it's mentors, it's trainees on placement, it's Scudder. Claire, I don't know if you remember, but our lead secondary inspector said, oh, we might get up to 7 or 8 versions of this programme. When I looked at it, Claire, we were up to 127. We were on the 127th version of the programme.
Oh,
so
she didn't see 127 versions. She had 5 versions, so I beat her 7.
But you can see how much work went into those into that programme. Much of it involved a number of you here. Like school inspections, though, the way in which they're kind of the way in which they approached it was through subjects and through subject deep dives, and there were a number of subjects that were chosen. And if you're in one of those schools, or you may have been pulled in another activity, that was their primary means in which to kind of thin slice, I suppose, and a sense of how we as a provider work with you as a partnership. We had one inspection, but there were separate phased teams for early years, primary and secondary. We had 4 secondary inspectors, and just a few headlines. They visited 8 schools. They met 4 members of our Scudder, our governance group. There was a focus group of head teachers and professional tutors and groups of mentors and early career teachers. So, my sense, I don't know about you, Claire, is that it was really rigorous, and ultimately we think it was fair. And we feel as though they got a good sense of what we do as a partnership. Second placements now. On to more prosaic matters. So, play from current. Right. So, again, another success. I think it's 170, but I only actually look at the ones who aren't placed. We basically placed everybody, and your school will have received an email last Thursday with confirming your trainees and their subjects and their names, and then that information was then shared with trainees. And there's a lot of placing to do for PGCE, for those school direct lead schools, and also we have our send placements. We've got 9 trainees who are going to various schools within our partnership. So really grateful for those schools, and hopefully they're represented today. Those placements also will have an additional meeting on Thursday with you, Claire. Is that right?
Yes, the SEND mentors. That's right.
Yeah, I think at 3:30. So if you're a professional tutor, can you make sure those mentors can attend that? I say that we still need 2 placements in drama, and we have got irons in the fire with those 2. But for some reason, we are struggling. So can I just put a call out? And if you think you might be able to help us, if you could just put your school name, your name and your school name in the chat, I'd be really grateful. We're looking for a drama placement and an English and drama placement. So if you can help, I'd be really grateful. I think we might have some ideas there, but the more, if we've got more ideas, that would really help us. So that's a huge achievement. So again, another example of the partnership coming together and working primarily, I would say, with curriculum tutors and school direct lead schools in order to sort those placements out. Mental training is going on this week. In fact, I'm sure there'll be at least one subject to a meeting today, and those mentor training sessions are only for placement 2 mentors. And they will be informed on how we manage the transition. And one really important forum for that is that the trainees will convene a Zoom meeting with their placement 1 and placement 2 mentors. And there is a kind of structure for that meeting that we shared with them, and so that there is some handover. And crucially, there will be a rationale as to why they're going to this school as opposed to anywhere else. So we will be looking for what can this second school provide in terms of a training experience to that trainee. And that's really, really crucial for those school direct placements where it's obviously much shorter. So I think the trainees will follow up on that, but the mentors will be given that information from the curriculum tutors in their mentor training.
Right, Keith, there have been quite a few offers of help with drama, so I've just noted it. Just want to thank Caroline from Hastings, Lydia from St Richard's, Carla from Uckfield and Sarah from Battle Abbey.
Amazing. So we will follow up. Obviously, there were issues about where trainees live, but really grateful to you for offering. Right, the other update is a very short one around partnership visits. So this year there's been a real focus on partnership visits from us centrally. Historically, I think there was a decent chance that you might be visited, but not necessarily a guarantee. So actually we want to get to every school in some shape or form this year. And we've instigated a more structured process where there is almost a sort of self-evaluation form where you can reflect on your own trainees' progress, reflect on your professional studies programme, reflect on how you support and quality assure your mentorship. And then we have a focused discussion. And my sense, because we report back after them all, is that they have been, positive and productive meetings, and hopefully two-way meetings where we're also picking up some of the issues that you face, the responsibility of looking after trainee teachers and being an induction manager, the challenge of working with a number of providers, of which we are but one, and also your own school priorities and capacity. So, they've been really, really positive. And, we've done about 50, just over 50. We hopefully will get to all of those schools who have just got a placement 1 trainee, but not going to have a placement 2 by half term. And then we'll see everybody else over the next placement. This was a quotation. So at the end of it, we will obviously have an exchange about with the professional tutor. And I just thought this was an important one, particularly in light of what Claire's just said. That sharpening the work with mentors is maybe an area that we as a partnership will continue to work on. I think we've done really well on the professional studies programs.
Yeah.
And shows how when we've worked together that we've managed to move our work along together. But the QA of mentoring is something that will no doubt be a focus for us. Right, this is just a reminder of the Padlets. I'm just going to just skirt over that. And then we actually have 5 items to get through. So I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible. So I don't think we've ever shared with you our secondary action plan. And these are our priorities. Andy Lowe, who's one of the more creative members of the team, turned those 6 into macaws to help us remember them. And although number 2, which is about accreditation and partnership, okay, so if you look at that, to embed understanding of the core content framework with schools, develop a bank of resources that mirrors our sequencing, etc. You can see that directly relates to partnership because it says partnership. You will see that I've highlighted some other green areas, which, when we get some kind of judgment about partnership is all of it, isn't it? It's mentors, it's professional tutors, it's head teachers. And so therefore, it's unsurprising that some of those other priorities, they will impact on the partnership as a whole. And so although I'm going to focus on number 2, our trainees are about to, they're working on their APKs. The mentors and professional tutors have an awareness of what that is an important part of, us, working together. The same with the mentor curriculum and also our subject curricula, where we invite school-based colleagues to offer us feedback and to drive improvement. But I'm going to focus on 2. So here, broken down, is some elements of 2, and this is our in-year kind of RAG rating. And there are some really important areas that I think we've moved things on. So provider-led quality assurance of school-based professional studies programs. Myself and Annette have written to most of you, either saying, brilliant, great professional studies program, here's what you need to do to improve, or actually, can we offer you some more focused feedback? And there's backwards and forwards. There's some brilliant exchanges of kind of professional dialogue with professional tutors who in the main are very receptive. And so, we have signed virtually, we've had nearly all of them in, maybe only one, maybe, that I'm still chasing. But all of the others have come in, and virtually all of them have been signed off after a process. So I think that's really important. I'll go to the next green one, which is, that Claire writes professional tutor bulletin for most weeks where there is an important lecture, and hopefully allows you a way to for that to make sense in your own professional study sessions, either the following week or when you cover that topic. The newsletter has, it's less of us and it's more about, it's less of us here at the centre. It's more about the partnership. Hopefully you get a sense of that. And the ones at the bottom, I think, are really crucial, because that working party worked so hard to provide us with resources for 5 strands of the core content framework, and they're up on the Padlet, working with curriculum tutors to hopefully support other professional tutors who are often having to do this on their own. So I really advise you, if you haven't looked on the Padlet and looked at some of those sessions, to really to make use of them, because I know, the very last point, I know that lots of you have done that with the professional studies programs. So rather than using some kind of abstract exemplar that we've devised, you are literally going on and looking at each other's and hopefully finding a user-friendly format to tailor your professional studies program for your school. The amber one there is, and we'll probably keep coming back to it, is around the quality assurance of from you of mentor feedback. And I know that some of you will have lots and lots of mentors. Some of you will have mentors who are really, really experienced. But I think one of the ways in which we want to work with you is to find, manageable ways where you can support that mentor with feedback, because just because a mentor is very experienced doesn't necessarily mean that they are writing high quality written feedback. And the reverse is obviously the case as well. Sometimes people do really amazing verbal feedback, and how can we help them capture it? Okay, so I've hopefully set that one up. It's one of the breakout rooms, right? So maybe we'll get you into 4s or 5s. So if I do it with 11 groups, that would probably get you into groups of 5. And then maybe one member of the group might feedback to us. We won't hear from all 11 groups, but we'll be able to hear from at least a few of you, rather than me just saying, anyone want to say anything? I think there was some very helpful feedback from one of you professional tutors who said, maybe get a spokesperson from the groups. So the question was, how can we improve the quality assurance of mentor feedback? We obviously share with you a help sheet. I don't know if it's worth me going through the help sheet or not. Then nod or shake your head. Help sheet. There's a nod from Neil. Okay, so I'm going to do this very briefly, because I'm sure your mentors will get this as well. If I share, what do I want to share? I'm going to share my desktop. Then if I go to my Padlet, so you know where it is. Okay, this first column is the help sheets, and we're in phase C at the moment. And the way in which it's organised, so I'll just give you the high level. The 5 strands are here according to the CCF standard. Okay, and what they do is they take a phrase from the final phase C report, which eventually a trainee will have to tick off, and you can use them, or mentors and professional tutors can use this formatively. So it can be, when you observe a lesson, there might be some areas here that you have seen, and so that could be the start of your, a strength that's been identified, and then some more detail can be added to it. So that's really good for identifying strengths. The second part is good for providing coaching questions about developing areas for, or identifying areas for development. And again, they're rooted in the CCF standards, but they are phase specific. And so they are tailored to the stage of development of a trainee. I think it's a very, very useful document and would potentially provide a level of consistency, at least at the high level, strength and target setting, but then the rich expert practitioner knowledge, which might be subject-based, may then develop that further. So I'm hoping that was of some help. I'm going to stop sharing, but it's time for you to get into a group. There are 55 of you, so I'm going to make 11 breakout rooms. How can, what strategies might you want to, either share or, come up with in order to support the quality assurance of mentoring, rather than just really brilliant mentors, I'm just going to leave them to it. I suppose that's what we need to be able to find a way of quality assuring what they're doing. Right. Assign automatically. Right, I'm just going to let it go. Yeah. Okay, just for about five minutes. Let's see how we go. Off you go. Okay, I'm hoping that you, within some of these groups, that you identified someone who's going to talk to us. Who should I pick on? Let's go randomly. I'll go for room 7. Alison. Oh, Alison, I spoke to you earlier today. Alison, Fran, Joe, Rebecca, and Vicky. Room 7. Any ideas you want to share with us?
So, do you want any of us to talk, Keith? I'm happy.
Yeah, any of you. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I thought there might be a spokesperson, but if there's not, then you just volunteered.
Happy to be it. So, we started off well. Maybe it was me really. Talking about how difficult this can be.
Yes.
Because we don't want the mentors to feel like they're being checked up on, or if there's as if there's some problem that's not there. Yeah. But I think it was Victoria who said that she gets her trainees 1 or 2 at a time to send her the notes from their mentor meetings once a week or something. I can't remember exactly what she said, but that means that they're just dropping into her inbox, so it's really easy to check them without having to go back and trawl through PebblePad and find the right phase and the right date and all those sorts of things. I tend to check them on PebblePad. It's a little bit more kind of covert, I guess, and I can go onto PebblePad and I can check the notes from all of my trainees from both providers at the same time, so it's just kind of quicker that way. And we were talking about the kind of ins and outs of observing meetings, and how on the one hand it feels maybe a bit intrusive to go and sit in on that meeting because it's a very particular kind of relationship that often has kind of developed over time. But if there's a problem in that mentoring relationship, then going and observing a meeting is quite a good way to see what's going on.
Yeah. Just a couple of observations. So one is around PebblePad, and I think we probably will want to present it in a slightly different way, in that PebblePad is meant to be the space which allows all of us to see what the rest of us are doing. And it's a kind of 360-degree view in a way that the tracker wasn't. The tracker was a little bit of information between trainees and tutors, and then professional tutors would find out if they needed to, or on a needs to know basis. Whereas, you know, I think one thing that professional tutors could do is to just schedule a particular week, and then they can just have a look at the reflections of just maybe mentor meetings of a given week, and then maybe another week it can just be looking at the quality of target setting, so that, you know, you've got limited amount of time. But I think the Pebble Pad could be a really good way of you being able to access the information. Yeah, that was my main observation. What about anything from you, Claire, around that?
Around Pebble Pad?
Yeah, or just that, but you know, the maybe some of the sensitivities of you know, sitting in on a mentor.
I think this all kind of comes into the whole idea around mentor development and mentor training, because, you know, we've got a whole tranche of, I think where we need to really work on is actually paradoxically the experienced mentors, right? Because we have a whole load of experienced mentors out there who've been doing it for years and years and years. I think this is why I've always done it. It always works. They're not terribly au fait with the CCF and the requirements, and there is that feeling with you know, I'm experienced and I can do it. But the thing is that there's a huge amount of work we've still got to do with mentoring and teacher development. The new ones, the newbies that Fee had this week, you know, all up for it. You know, we can do it, we understand it and everything else. I just think that there's a space that we need to fill at the university in terms of making sure that our experienced mentors get the same, get it and get the same training to support you in schools with the experienced mentors. Because often as professional tutors, you might be talking to someone who's got like 10, 20 years more experience than yourselves. And I get that, and that's really difficult. So I think we need to find a way to get some leverage, some mechanism to get our more experienced mentors who we really appreciate, really value, but more on board in terms of what we are expecting from them, and that everyone is on this learning journey together. Nothing stays the same, does it? And it can't stay the same if we're working within a self-improving system, and that's what we are doing at the moment. So I think that's probably one of my reflections. And in terms of Pebble Pad, yes, it's a pain in the neck, isn't it? When you have to go back, if you've got 4 or 5 trainees and you have to look back in their Pebble Pads. Do you know what I would do as a professional tutor? I would just ask them once every 2 or 3 weeks for them to email the lesson observation report to you. Yeah, so you can keep a tab of what's happening, and that way you'll have time to make timely interventions. So in your place, if you're hosting a placement 2 trainee, they won't be teaching, they won't have their first full lesson observation till the 2nd week that they're with you. So I would just ask your mentors at the end of that 2nd week to your trainees, just to email you the mentor written feedback, so you will have time to put any interventions in place if you need to. It's a difficult thing. We do make it really clear in the partnership agreements that we are looking at mentor written feedback, and we will respond. The university will respond, the subject tutors will respond to the subject mentors if we find that they're not making kind of any headway. But you as well have a part to play in that. And so I think that liaison between the subject tutor and yourselves as professional tutors is really good. And quite often, if I think a mentor is, because we do rag the mentors in terms of their written feedback. We have a big spreadsheet, red, amber, green, not any reds. And if there are reds, we quickly talk about that with a professional tutor involved. But with the ambers, you know, we will come to you as professional tutors and say, look, this mentor is still at amber after week 3 or 4. What can we do about it? What's the best way? What's the most sensitive way of approaching this with them? That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't know if that rings with anyone, or.
I suppose the other thing is, as we move towards, you know, the future, the role of a mentor is a really important role in a school, and schools have got to understand that as well and provide the infrastructure for you to be able to nurture that group of mentors. Okay, I'm going to move on. What I was going to say, I've got to do the evaluation, mid-year evaluation, and I'll include something around that as one of the questions for this year. Right, back to presentation. Right, so this is again, I will come back to this in our evaluation to get some feedback from you as professional tutors. But this is around the purpose of our professional tutor meetings. We've already had it, haven't we? In fact, we had it for about 35 minutes, some updates, okay? Guidance, we've done lots of guidance around the CCF. We've done some guidance around the phase help, we've done some guidance around expectations of quality assurance. It also should provide a space, we've had that earlier today, of just sharing of practice and celebrating success. So I think that's the purpose of it. If you think we should be doing other things, then by all means you can feed that back. But I suppose the question that I wanted to just raise is the format of it, really. So the last time we asked you, there was an overwhelming consensus from you all that you wanted our meetings to remain online. Mainly because we're such a huge partnership, and in terms of your own workload and your ability to attend, online seemed to work for a number of you. And also there are some COVID keepers, aren't there, in practice. So a lot of your schools will have online parents' evenings and whatever. So, you know, it may well be that that's what we continue to do. But I just thought I'd offer some other options, and you will be able to respond in the mid-year evaluation. So some professional tutors do prefer face-to-face meetings on campus. And when we did our new mentor meeting, as I say, you know, that was very successful. There is something about real people and relationships and networking that might be facilitated better on campus. But we are aware that we are geographically really spread, and it might mean that then some professional tutors just don't make those meetings if we made them solely face-to-face. There's obviously the option of hybrid, because that would cater to the differing needs of professional tutors. My only caveat with that really is that sometimes it cannot really meet the needs of either group, and so I'm just wary of that. It sounds like a good kind of catch-all, but actually what's that experience like for the people in the room as opposed to people online? And then I suppose you could come back to us and say, well, actually, some of us really want face-to-face, some of us really want online, and maybe we should have, instead of one set of these meetings, but have two to cater for those different needs. My sense is that, I mean, there's something very validating about a group of 40, 50 professional tutors all being in one place, and maybe by breaking that up and turning it into local and more dispersed partnership members, maybe it's not really what we want to do in terms of building a cohesive partnership. But as I say, I just thought I would flag that for you, and that will be one of the questions that we will return to in the evaluation. Right, we've done really, really well in terms of professional studies programs, mapping against the core content framework, the revisiting of some of those standards at different phases. I think all of that has been really successful, and there are a number of you who are still working on that bit, if I'm being honest, and you will have to be responsive to your placement 2 trainees and their needs. Get that. But in the Deans for Impact paper that we has been really influential in terms of our thinking of professional studies, there is this notion of deliberate practice. And so the programs are grand, you don't deliver all of the sessions. And so therefore, how do we ensure that those headline kind of learn that statements are then actually being covered and then moving towards the actual impact on practice? I don't think there's time for me to do this, but you can ask your trainees if you want to. In one of the lectures, based on some feedback from the trainees, we were obviously responsive to trainee feedback from the reps, wanted to know how the various elements of our course work together. And so I did speak to all of them in a lecture, but essentially I'll just give you the highlights, which is the yellow bits happen at the centre, the university, curriculum studies, professional studies. Bits on the right happen in school, your professional studies, the mentoring, the observation. But there are ways in which we are now communicating through curriculum, weekly bulletins, regular PT bulletins, Pebble Pad. that hopefully means that it's a cohesive experience for trainees, and that's certainly what you know, I think that's the feedback we're getting. Okay. So in terms of your actual delivery of your programs, in the same way in our curriculum studies, we have to include activities where actually they're going to pull apart a small piece of practice, decomposition, and really try to unpick what's going on in the way in which, say, instructions are delivered, or in which feedback is understood by students. We would hope that we can move into our sessions of having those real small bits of practice that are really unpicked in terms of decomposition, and then also simulation, approximation activities. They rehearse in the safety of your professional studies program. That will be an area that we would want to hopefully develop. And remember, this isn't just for Sussex, because whoever you work with, this is the way in which professional studies is moving. And one of the more affirming things of our partnership visits is that we've been told by some professional tutors that we have tried to support and guide professional tutors in that shift. Right. Feel free to use the chat for any feedback. I did want to have another breakout room here, because we had a really successful partnership conference, and I don't think we'd had one for a couple of years. And I've just, here are my taglines. You know, the aims of it, I think, should be to inspire you guys in leading IT in schools, and to celebrate the expertise that resides within the partnership. I know some of you will be looking at the second one going, he's just going to make us do loads of things. Well, actually, I'm not. I'm going to respond to the feedback from last year. I think this, last year we did it for all professional tutors and mentors. I think it should just be for professional tutors, and there may need to be a separate event for mentors. But and I think that a huge chunk of it should be where you are being supported and trained, rather than you delivering the training for others. But I'm up for some partnership thoughts on what that might be, and what our theme might be, and who we might ask to come and lead sessions for us that aren't us. So in our next meeting, I think we'll come back to that properly. But if you have any ideas, then please share them with us. Hopefully that's enough of a trail. So that the headline of that is that it's going to be for professional tutors, so it will have a more focused kind of program. And I do want you to be trained or have input from external experts. And then maybe in the afternoon, we could maybe have some more peer-led workshops. There's not enough time for a breakout task for this, so I'll just have to get your feedback, via email or in the chat if you've got ideas. Right, the Phase C report is coming up. That's coming up for the 20th of February. And in the same way I've just talked about that phase report, I think it's really important for you as a professional tutor to be quality assuring the kinds of feedback that mentors are giving, that it is phase specific, and tied to the particular CCF, and using the language of the CCF, but reporting against our curriculum. This was something that's come up in a few partnership visits. Our curriculum goes beyond the CCF, and when we're doing the phase reports, we're reporting against our curriculum. But within that is some of the language of the CCF. So I think that's really important that we make that distinction. If you want more on that, then if you have a partnership visit, then feel free to talk to your, partnership visits team member, or come back to me. But I think that's important. On a more just, administrative level, a lot of the Phase B reports weren't signed off on PebblePad by professional tutors. So please, can you work out how you're going to align you doing your bit once the mentor has done their bit? Okay, support plans, the date's on there for the next phase, 26th of April. It gives us enough time to be able to devise targets and hopefully allow the trainee to be able to meet those targets in the next 2 weeks. In terms of key dates, so the phase C reports the 20th of February. Please be aware that our trainees are working on their APKs. And they will have to balance that with their teaching. But I suppose our key message is that that APK has been fully scaffolded since the start of, pretty much the start of the course. And they've had plenty of time to complete the assignment with, you know, points at which they are engaging with their curriculum tutor and having work submitted and fed back to them. So it shouldn't be that they're asking for time in order to do their APK. You know, that would be something that you need to come back to us, and that's not something that we necessarily want to support unless trainees have got particular issues. But I just wanted you to be aware of that. And then we meet again as a secondary professional tutor group on the 29th of March. As ever, I'm always up for newsletter items. It could be something about your practice in your school. It could be to do with experiences that you want to offer trainees. And we are going to a meeting with Sally and Claire to talk about relaunching a kind of school experience program. That might be something that you want to work with us on. It could be about your own just teaching and learning practice that you want to share with the partnership. And, you know, inclusion and diversity is a key kind of feature of our program. And so there's all manner of amazing work going on in our partnership schools, and we want to share that. Right. Okay. I think I have got time for this because all you have to do is to read. Okay. So hopefully you can see a number of papers on the screen. And my question to you is, if you were going to read one of these, which one would it be? Okay, I'm going to pick on someone. I don't know if they're still in the room, but I'm going to pick on Carla from Uckfield. You out there, Carla?
Yeah.
Go on then, which one would you read?
I'm going to go subject specific, exploring adaptive teaching in media. Although also I'd be interested in the uniform. Does uniform contribute to the culture and community of the school?
Wonderful, thank you. Right, I'm going to go to Lydia from St Richards. If you're out there, Lydia.
I am, yes. I would possibly the disadvantaged term. To what extent is the term disadvantaged inclusive?
Amazing. And I'm going to go to Charlotte from Walden Park.
Hello. Either, I'm a bit on the fence, either investigating boys reading disengagement at Key Stage 4, or does uniform contribute to the culture and community of the school?
Okay. Well,
can I have two?
Yeah, you can have two. You can have as many as you like. Okay. But nobody said nothing. Okay. Nobody said, oh, none of them interest me. Okay. So the punchline on this is that these are all dissertation either titles or topics that current MA part-time education students are doing now. And there's a difference between a trainee and a student, isn't it? So they are master's students, but all of them are doing part-time. All of them are practicing teachers. Some of them are ECTs, some of them are subject specialist teachers, some of them are school leaders, and there are some in here who are university tutors. So in one of my other roles, I co-convene the MA in education, and I do that because I have benefited from that. And I'm not saying it is for everyone, but boy, all of this work's happening in our partnership schools. So the reason they're doing it is because they're reflecting on their own practice. And because it's a dissertation, it's a piece of empirical research that they're doing with fellow, their school colleagues or the students in their school. So it feels to me a kind of really virtuous circle that starts off in ITE, but then just can keep continuing. So if any of you are interested in promoting that, we will have a conference where, and you will all be invited, where people are presenting on their dissertations. And I'm meeting somebody who's doing the uniform one at the end of, when I finish this meeting. I'm really fascinated by that. So I just thought that I would not shamelessly plug, because I think it's another example of what's going on in our partnership. Right. Any other business? Any other business? So I think we covered an update on reaccreditation. So I think there wasn't anything else from me. Claire, anything from you?
No, nothing for me, no.
Okay, so I'm 2 minutes over. Can I just end where I started, which is just an enormous thank you to all of you in the partnership, whether you were directly or, just part of, all of the efforts that went into allowing Ofsted to have a good scrutiny of us, and we're really, really grateful to you all. Right, I think we're done. So unless you want to speak to me, have a lovely evening.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy tomorrow.
Cheers.